Hey guys, it's Lindy. So in this video, I'm showing you guys my homemade vanilla syrup recipe. You only need a few ingredients. You're going to need some vanilla extract, granulated white sugar, light brown sugar, and a pinch of salt. If you're a coffee lover like my husband and I, then this video is for you. Originally, I bought this vanilla syrup from Fry's grocery store, but this stuff goes for about $5 a bottle. And not only that, it's full of ingredients, preservatives, and this at-home recipe that I'm going to show you guys tastes 10 times better than this vanilla syrup that I bought. When you first buy the syrup, it's actually clear. I've just been repurposing that container, and every time I make homemade vanilla syrup, I'll pour it into that bottle. So in my saucepan here, I have 2 cups of water, and I'm going to turn the stove onto medium-high heat. And then from here, what you want to do is you want to add 1 cup plus 1/3 of a cup of granulated white sugar, and then 2/3 of brown sugar into our 2 cups of water, and a pinch of salt. And then we're going to stir this until combined, and we're just going to let the heat dissolve this. So as you guys can see, the sugar is now most all the way dissolved. It's been a few minutes. So now what we want to do is let this come up to a boil. And in the meantime, I want to show you guys just how commonly used vanilla syrup is. If you go to Starbucks and you order a caramel macchiato, a lot of people think that they use caramel flavor syrup in the macchiatos, but it's actually vanilla syrup. The only thing that makes it a caramel macchiato is just the way that the espresso shots are poured in, and that it's topped off with caramel sauce, but it's actually vanilla syrup. So now you can see that our syrup is starting to boil, and once it comes up to a rolling boil, then you're going to want to let it boil for about 5 minutes. The reason you want to let it boil for 5 minutes is just so the water reduces and you get that really nice, thick, syrupy texture. So mine's been boiling for about 5 minutes already. I'm going to go ahead and take it off the heat and let it cool completely for about 20 to 30 minutes before adding in my vanilla extract. Okay, so our vanilla syrup is completely cooled down. The last step is just to add some vanilla flavoring. Now you can either use imitation vanilla or pure vanilla extract. Using pure vanilla extract can get kind of expensive, especially if this is something that you're going to be making all the time. So I recently, switched to imitation vanilla, and I think it actually still tastes the same. I don't really find too much of a difference in flavor. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding 2 full tablespoons of imitation vanilla flavoring to my syrup, and I'm going to stir until combined. Now you can store this in whatever you want to. I've got a couple little containers that I like to use. Like I said, I like to use that glass jar that I had before. And then I also just picked up this little syrup dispenser. I'm pretty sure that I got this at the dollar store. And then, again, I'm just going to pour whatever is left over into my vanilla jar. So be very careful because you don't want to spill any. We're going to pour this in. This recipe makes quite a bit. If you're drinking coffee just by yourself, you may not want to do this much. You may want to cut the recipe in half. But since my husband and I both drink coffee, then I like the measurements of this recipe. It usually lasts us about, I would say maybe about 1 to 2 weeks. And I'm just pouring the rest of it here into my bottle. This stuff is highly concentrated, you guys, so when you're making a, cup of coffee or a latte, you're making an espresso drink or what have you, you're only going to want to use maybe about a tablespoon or two to start off with, because it can get very sweet very quick. So start off small and then, you can always add more later. So now I'm going to make myself a vanilla latte using the syrup that we just made. You typically want to use whole beans when you're making an espresso drink because first of all, it's going to taste way better. And second of all, if you have an espresso machine and you buy pre-ground coffee, a lot of times it's going to come out way too watery because the grind is going to be too coarse. So get yourself a coffee grinder. I just picked this one up, I think, at Best Buy. And choose one that has a fine setting on it because you really want to grind up your coffee beans so that when you're pulling your espresso shot, it's coming out nice and thick and it's not too watery. Some coffee grinders don't do a very good job at grinding up the beans fine enough, and you end up with just a really watery and non-flavorful latte or coffee, if you will. You guys, there's just something about making homemade coffee and using this vanilla syrup recipe. I swear it tastes better than Starbucks. It tastes better than, David and I like to go out to breakfast sometimes and I'll order a caramel macchiato or a vanilla latte, like at a sit-down restaurant. And to me, at-home coffee tastes even better than, some of those restaurants, especially when you use a, homemade vanilla syrup too. It's just going to taste more clean. It's going to taste a lot fresher since you just ground up your coffee beans. So right now I'm just loading my ground coffee into my espresso puck, and we're going to come over here to our espresso machine and I'm going to pull my shots. I'm going to pull my shots of espresso. So might have to set the camera down here for a second, but I'm going to put this onto my filter here. The way the espresso machines usually work is they use a water pump system and it pressurizes the coffee and pushes out the espresso. So that's why I said, if you have a grind that's way too fine, if you have a grind that's way too coarse, then too much of the water is going to get through, and that's why it's going to look really blonde or watery. So you'll know that you have the perfect grind when it's nice and dark on the bottom, you get that nice layer of crema on top, and then it finishes off a light blonde color. Okay, so let's pour in some of the homemade vanilla syrup that we just made. Like I said, I'm only starting off with about a tablespoon here, maybe not even that. Especially if you're making a small cup of coffee, you're really not going to need that much. So start off small, and you can always add a little bit more if you'd like. Afterwards, I kind of know exactly how much to use now. So I'm going to pour in my shots here. Pour in the second one. Careful because they can get very hot. Alright, and then the very last step is to steam the milk. I bought this little frothing pitcher off of Amazon. It did not come with my espresso machine. So go ahead and put it under the frother and turn it on. Now, what you probably want to do if you're new to making lattes is get yourself a little like thermometer. I use a meat thermometer. Obviously, you know, it's clean when I use it and put it into the milk, but you want the temperature of the milk to be anywhere between 150 degrees to 165 degrees. Any hotter than that and you're really going to burn yourself when you go to take a sip. So obviously I don't have my thermometer with me right now. I just kind of had to base the temperature off of the feel of the frother. So once your milk is steamed, go ahead and pour it into your latte. And you can top this off with whatever you want to. I'm probably going to top it off with some caramel sauce. Oh my gosh, looks so good. And there you have it, you guys. Homemade vanilla syrup recipe that makes a delicious vanilla latte.